All right, so the first article we're going to talk about is incorporating unstructured free play into your training program or session. This stemmed from the NSCA Journal that the three of us get as part of the NSCA, and this edition was devoted to youth and youth development. And since we're so high on playing games in our training protocol, we thought this was a good place to start. So with that in mind, we're just going to touch on a few points from the article itself, mainly coming from the coach's perspective as well as the athlete's perspective. But really it comes down to, if play is a positive experience for the athlete, then they're going to buy into whatever follows and your program as a whole. If they don't find it enjoyable, they're probably not going to want to do what follows the game. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever had a kid who said, I want to stop playing the game.
Yeah.
It's usually they get upset and they want to keep playing the game and not do the structured training. So we'll start with that thought and then kind of proceed from there. So before we get rolling into the article, I came across another article with some pretty scary statistics. The number of physically active children is down from 29% in 2011 to 24.8% in 2016. It's the largest drop in physical activity ever in that span. Combine that with most kids who are only physically active in gym class, which is, say, 40 minutes at best, and we have the majority of kids being inactive the majority of the day. So it's not just a sports and athletic thing. This is more of a lifetime physical activity integration into their day-to-day operation, so to speak, that we have control over. So when you see kids playing in here, we're looking at them currently, but we're also thinking of them permanently adopting a physical activity lifestyle. And the absolute number one reason they're going to continue doing that is because it's fun. Not because we kept score or because they won or because they're competitive per se. It's because they had fun. So with that, we'll kind of switch gears to more of the article and starting with what kids perceive to be the benefits of playing.
That's interesting that that study found that, because in the article it points out that youth experience the highest levels of intrinsic motivation during activity that takes place the furthest away from adult control. When adults do have more control over what they're doing, they don't enjoy it as much. And this goes back to the importance, because in order for youth to physically develop and continue to enjoy the experience, they like to have control over what they're doing. It has to be positive and meaningful to them. And the best way for that to happen is to allow them some level of control over what they're doing, away from adult guidance and supervision, if you will.
I think when it comes down to it, having that intrinsic motivation, getting a kid to do that is the hardest aspect of what we do, in my opinion, to get kids to walk in and want to do it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the gameplay comes in. There's a distinct difference between when they play the game and when they don't play the game as to how the rest of the hour goes. And I just find that extremely interesting.
And to bring that full circle, today's protocol, so it's Friday, May 19th, today's protocol is literally nothing but we call it a game day. And there's skills embedded in the games, but to a kid, they're just playing. We're still working on coaching them and their athletic ability, but the way that we contextualize it is a game. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but these seem to be the most popular days. No one ever has said to us, I can't wait to do changing of direction, or when's the next changing of direction day. It's always when's the next game day. And we introduced that, I think, a couple years ago as like a once a month deal. And now as soon as we're done, they can't wait to do it again. And they literally ask us, when's the next game day? So if you get buy-in, kids will do anything at their highest level.
All right, so within the article, there's 3 different types of play. There's unstructured, semi-structured, and there's structured. Unstructured is where the kids have complete control over what they're doing with no adult involvement, just no structure at all. They completely lead everything. Semi-structured, kind of more along the lines of like what Tony just went over with our athletic-based game day, where there is some structure. We're telling them, we're giving them some guidelines, but it's chaotic. They still have a decent amount of control. And then the last one, which is structured, is probably what you'll see us do more so day to day with the set drills. They know exactly what they're doing, when they're doing it. And that's how those three are laid out for us by definition.
And one of the things that really stood out to all three of us, and I'll read this verbatim: a significant number of the parents surveyed reported that they viewed the time a child spent in unstructured play, which Brian just talked about, kids are in control, they viewed that as wasted time. On the other hand, the general consensus among most parents was that time spent in structured play, such as playing competitive sports, is important for children. And I think you can probably see where we're going with this. I think both are important, but given the choice for long-term mental, physical, emotional development, kids have to have more unstructured or even semi-structured play than structured play, which is governed by adults.
Yeah, I was going to say with that, it even goes to point out in the article, they make the point of saying that shift in focus, how adults view structure, is very valuable, and any free play as wasted time has contributed towards the shift in how a child's time is spent in play, and it continues to contribute toward the overall decline in free unstructured play. So that mindset has really helped contribute to the less and less activity the kids are enjoying on their own.
And it actually goes, they lay out some additional stats talking about there's a 50% decrease in outdoor activities, and then a 25% decrease in overall play. You guys both growing up, we got home from school, we did some homework, and then we were out the door for 4+ hours.
Even the bigger one in there, too, is that children just have 12% less free time available per week.
Yeah.
And that's nuts, just because they have so many commitments, whether it's social commitments, community involvement, school commitments, plays, practices, games, things that are structured for them. So it's almost like when they get the chance to come in and play, the last thing they want to do is have us tell them what to do for another hour of their day.
And it goes right back to what we just talked about how the parents are viewing unstructured play as a waste of time. That's right there. That accounts a lot for those percentages, because instead of parents just letting their kids, get out of the house, go play, now they're saying, oh, you need to be doing something productive. Mm-hmm. That's a shame. It's completely changing the scope of things.
Mm-hmm. A couple other quick sentences that stood out, and then we'll wrap this topic up. Children ages 6 to 12, the amount of time that they spent in unstructured play had a direct positive impact on their continued success in sport. So while it may not seem to directly translate over, according to the article, research suggests that's the opposite. The more unstructured play athletes become better athletes in the structured environment. While we're not advocating kids just go out and play and do their own thing and have no adult supervision or semi-structure, we realize that both help each other. So one great sentence that we all talked about and put in our notes was, free play alone is not challenging enough to keep participation. As mentioned previously, the form of play must provide experiences that are both highly enjoyable and require high levels of concentration and challenge. Free play alone does not provide an experience that is challenging enough to require youth to exert high levels of effort. So if you kind of go back to what's the best for the athlete, not what's the best what you think they need or the coach needs, maybe instead of having every practice structured, get on the line, high knees, butt kicks, how about let's just play some tag games? And that can bleed right into more of a structure and then eventually the practice itself. The article is pretty lengthy, and we're just going to use the last few moments to kind of summarize what we feel would be a good takeaway or takeaways for the coaches, parents, and maybe some athletes that are listening to this. I'll go ahead and start. I think for me, it's pretty self-explanatory with fun. If kids have fun, very good chance they're going to continue doing it, want to do it, and look forward to doing it. And when you're talking about buy-ins, and as Neil talked about earlier, they're just being pulled in multiple directions. So if our buy-in on day one of an athlete coming in is they get to finally play, and they've been cooped up for 8 hours being told what to do. To me, that's the ultimate barometer, is to see the smiles, the laughter, new friends, and knowing intrinsically that they're always going to want to do that. We don't have to ask them to play a game. In fact, most times we have to ask what game. It's just a given that they're going to play a game. And we know that we measure not in science, but in smiles and laughter and having fun. That'd be my takeaway from the article to the people listening.
I would second everything Tony just said there. Another big takeaway for me, I would say this is our goal, which is also aligned with what the article was saying, is that our goal with everything we do is to support physical literacy for the athlete and provide an opportunity for them to develop so that they can enhance their quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, on a personal level, all my most memorable moments as an athlete were those where there was not a lot of coach intervention, where maybe the coaches just got us into groups and we were playing a certain game. Yeah, it might have been relevant to our sport, but we had more control and we just had a blast with it. So I think it just comes down to how much fun you can have. We can also be productive. I know it goes against conventional thought of what strength and conditioning should be. It's one of the first things I always tell our athletes is we're not going to be what you're used to. We're not militaristic. We're not going to yell at you. We're going to have fun. We're going to joke, and we're going to get results. We're going to do what we need to do and work hard.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of piggyback on top of both of their statements. Definitely, when we were kids, and times are different. I'm not going to sound like an old grandpa saying this, but things are just different than they used to be. But we can still meet them in the middle and have the electronics and all that. But we can also say, man, you just need to be a kid. And we are big kids at heart. I think that's what makes us so great as coaches, is we love to interact and actually play with them versus always instruct them and coach them up. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We'll be on to do another article soon. Thanks for listening.